In the bustling heart of New York City, where dreams are born and shattered daily, stood the acclaimed restaurant Noir et Blanc. Its owner and head chef, Marcus Blackwood, was the toast of the culinary world. With his perfectly coiffed salt and pepper hair and a reputation for innovative fusion cuisine, Marcus had it all: fame, fortune, and most importantly, his coveted 3 Michelin stars. But fate, as they say, is a fickle mistress. On a crisp autumn evening, as the city's elite eagerly awaited their reservations at Noir et Blanc, Marcus stood in his immaculate kitchen, barking orders at his staff. Perfection. That's what we serve here. Nothing less, he growled, his eyes scanning each plate with laser focus. Little did Marcus know, seated among the diners that night was the city's most feared food critic, Veronica Sharp. Known for her acerbic wit and unforgiving palate, Veronica had single-handedly brought down empires of taste with her scathing reviews. As the evening progressed, a sense of unease settled over Marcus. Something felt off. The soufflé hadn't risen quite right, the sauce was a touch too tart, small imperfections that usually wouldn't matter, but tonight they loomed large in his mind. The next morning, Marcus awoke to his phone buzzing incessantly. With bleary eyes, he reached for it, his heart sinking as he read the headline, Noir et Blanc, a symphony of mediocrity. "No," Marcus shouted, his voice echoing through his empty penthouse apartment. Veronica's review was brutal, picking apart every dish, every flavor combination. She'd called his cuisine pretentious, his techniques outdated, and worst of all, she'd declared that Marcus Blackwood had lost his touch. The fallout was swift and merciless. Reservations canceled en masse, investors pulled out. And in a final crushing blow, the Michelin Guide rescinded Noir et Blanc's stars. Marcus watched helplessly as his empire crumbled. Weeks turned into months, and soon the for sale sign in Noir et Blanc's window became a permanent fixture. His savings dwindled, his fancy apartment was repossessed, and his designer suits were traded for off-the-rack bargains. Rock bottom came on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Marcus, now unshaven and disheveled, found himself wandering the streets of Lower Manhattan, the weight of his failure pressing down on him like a physical force. As the rain soaked through his threadbare jacket, he stumbled upon a nondescript building with a sign that read, Hope Harbor Shelter, all welcome. Desperate for a dry place to rest, Marcus pushed open the heavy wooden door. The smell hit him first, a mix of industrial cleaner and something. Was that soup? His chef's nose twitched involuntarily. "Can I help you?" a gruff voice called out. Marcus turned to see a burly man with kind eyes approaching. The man's name tag read Jack. I don't know, Marcus replied, his voice cracking. "I just needed to get out of the rain." Jack's expression softened. "Well, you've come to the right place. We've got hot soup in the kitchen if you're hungry." Marcus nodded gratefully, following Jack through a corridor lined with worn but clean cots. As they approached the kitchen, the smell of soup grew stronger, and Marcus couldn't help but critique it in his mind. Needs more salt, perhaps a touch of thyme. They entered a bustling kitchen where volunteers ladled soup into bowls for a growing line of hungry individuals. Marcus's eyes were drawn to a young woman stirring an enormous pot. Her movements were graceful, almost dance-like, as she added pinches of this and dashes of that to the bubbling concoction. "That's Lily," Jack said, noticing Marcus's gaze. "Best cook we've ever had here. Works miracles with the donations we get." As if sensing their attention, Lily looked up. Her eyes met Marcus's, and for a moment, the world seemed to stop. There was something in those eyes, a depth, a mystery that Marcus couldn't quite place. "New volunteer?" Lily asked, her voice carrying a hint of an accent Marcus couldn't quite place. Before Marcus could respond, Jack chimed in. "Nah, just someone looking for a warm meal. But hey, we could always use an extra pair of hands. You interested in helping out, Marcus," he replied, surprising himself. "And yes, I think I'd like that." As Marcus donned an apron and began chopping vegetables alongside Lily, he felt something he hadn't experienced in months, a sense of purpose. The kitchen's hustle and bustle, the gratitude in the eyes of those they served, it all felt right. But as the day wore on, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Lily than met the eye. The way she moved in the kitchen, her intuitive understanding of flavors, this was no ordinary shelter cook. And when a loud crash from the storage room made everyone jump, Marcus could have sworn he saw a flash of, was that fear? Cross Lily's face. As night filter quieted, Marcus found himself sitting across from Jack in the now empty dining area. "So, Marcus," Jack began, his tone casual but his eyes sharp, "what brings a man like you to our little corner of the world?" Marcus hesitated. Should he reveal his true identity? The shame of his fall from grace still burned hot within him, but something about Jack's open face, the warmth of the shelter, made him want to be honest. "I used to be a chef," Marcus began, his voice barely above a whisper. "Had my own restaurant even, but I lost it all, made mistakes, got complacent, and now I'm here." Jack nodded slowly, no judgment in his eyes. "We all have our stories, Marcus. What matters is what we do next." He paused, then added with a twinkle in his eye, "And I have a feeling you might just find what you're looking for here." As Marcus settled into a cot that night, his mind raced. The mystery of Lily, the unexpected warmth of this place, the chance to cook again, even if it was just simple soup. For the first time in months, he felt a glimmer of hope. But little did Marcus know, as he drifted off to sleep, that his arrival at Hope Harbor Shelter had set in motion a chain of events that would change everything. In the shadows of the kitchen, Lily stood, her fingers tracing the outline of a small, ornate key hidden beneath her shirt. Her eyes darted nervously to the windows, scanning the street outside. "Soon," she whispered to herself, "just a little longer, and it'll all be over." As the city slept, secrets simmered beneath the surface at Hope Harbor Shelter, waiting to boil over and change lives forever. As days turned into weeks, Marcus found himself settling into a routine at Hope Harbor Shelter. The once pristine chef's whites were replaced by worn jeans and faded t-shirts. His commanding presence in Michelin-starred kitchens traded for the humble task of feeding the city's forgotten souls. Yet, in this unexpected setting, Marcus discovered a sense of fulfillment that had eluded him in his previous life of glamour and accolades. One morning, as Marcus chopped vegetables for the day's soup, he couldn't help but observe Lily's movements around the kitchen. Her grace was undeniable, but there was something else, a precision in her knife work, a depth of knowledge in her seasoning choices that spoke of formal training. "Lily," Marcus called out, curiosity getting the better of him, "where did you learn to cook like that?" For a moment, Lily froze, her hand hovering over a pot of simmering broth. When she turned to face Marcus, her smile seemed forced. "Oh, here and there. You pick things up when you move around a lot." Marcus raised an eyebrow but didn't press further. Instead, he decided to test his suspicions. "Hey, mind if I show you a little trick? It's something I learned in my old life." Lily's eyes lit up with genuine interest. "Sure, I'd love to see." Marcus demonstrated a complex cutting technique, one he'd learned in his early days as a chef in Paris. To his amazement, Lily replicated it perfectly on her first try. "Incredible!" Marcus exclaimed. "Lily, that's not something you just pick up. You've had training, haven't you?" Lily's face clouded over. It's complicated, Marcus. Please, just leave it alone." Before Marcus could respond, Jack burst into the kitchen, his face etched with worry. "Has anyone seen the donation box? It's gone." The atmosphere in the kitchen instantly shifted. Volunteers looked at each other in confusion and dismay. Marcus noticed Lily stiffen, her eyes darting towards the back exit. "Maybe someone moved it for safekeeping?" Marcus suggested, trying to calm the situation. Jack shook his head. "No, I checked everywhere. This is bad, folks. That money was supposed to pay for repairs to the shelter's roof." As the day progressed, an undercurrent of tension ran through the shelter. Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, especially when he caught Lily in hushed, urgent conversation with a man he'd never seen before at the shelter's back door. That evening, as Marcus was cleaning up the kitchen, he overheard Jack on the phone in his office. "Yes, Detective Moore. I understand it might seem small, but this money means everything to us. Without it, we might have to close down." Marcus's heart sank. The thought of Hope Harbor closing its doors to those in need was unbearable. He'd grown to care deeply for this place and its people. An idea began to form in his mind. The next morning, Marcus approached Jack with determination in his eyes. "Jack, I have a proposition. What if we organize a fundraising dinner? I may have lost my restaurant, but I still have connections in the culinary world. We could host an event, charge a hefty ticket price, and raise enough money to not only fix the roof, but secure the shelter's future. Jack's eyes widened. That's not a bad idea, Marcus. But who would come to a dinner at a homeless shelter? Marcus grinned, a spark of his old confidence returning. Leave that to me. With the right marketing, we can make this the most exclusive event in town, a chance for the elite to feel good about themselves while enjoying world-class cuisine. As they discussed the details, Lily entered the office. Her face paled as she caught the tail end of their conversation. A big event? Here? With important people? Marcus nodded enthusiastically. Yes! And Lily, I want you to be my sous chef. Your talent is wasted on just making soup. Together, we can create something extraordinary. Lily's reaction was not what Marcus expected. She backed away, shaking her head. No, I can't. I'm sorry, I just can't be involved in something like that. As Lily fled the office, Marcus and Jack exchanged puzzled looks. What was that about? Jack wondered aloud. Marcus frowned. I don't know, but I intend to find out. Over the next few weeks, preparations for the fundraising dinner consumed Marcus's every waking moment. He called in favors, sweet-talked suppliers, and even managed to get a local newspaper to run a story about the Michelin-starred chef cooking for the homeless. The event was shaping up to be the talk of the town. Throughout it all, Lily remained distant, often disappearing for hours at a time. When she was in the kitchen, her skills were undeniable, but there was a nervousness to her movements that Marcus couldn't ignore. One evening, as Marcus was finalizing the menu in the shelter's small office, he heard a commotion outside. Peering through the window, he saw Lily engaged in a heated argument with the same man he'd seen her talking to before. Straining to hear, Marcus caught snippets of their conversation. Can't back out now, Lily. Do you know what's at stake? I never wanted it to go this far. These people, they're good people. Don't go soft on me now. Remember why we're here. One last job, and we're set for life. As the man stormed off, Lily slumped against the wall, her face a mask of anguish. Marcus's mind raced. What had he just witnessed? Who was Lily, really? The night before the big fundraiser, Marcus couldn't sleep. The success of the event weighed heavily on his mind, but so did the mystery surrounding Lily. As he tossed and turned on his cot, a noise from the kitchen caught his attention. Silently, Marcus made his way down the hallway. The kitchen door was ajar, and inside, he saw a figure hunched over the safe where they kept the shelter's meager funds. As the figure turned, a shaft of moonlight illuminated their face. Lily! Marcus gasped. Lily's eyes widened in shock, her hand clutching something close to her chest. Marcus, I can explain. But before she could say another word, sirens blared in the distance, growing louder by the second. Panic flashed across Lily's face. I have to go. I'm so sorry, Marcus, for everything. As Lily darted towards the back exit, Marcus found himself torn. Should he stop her, alert Jack, or let her go and protect the person who, despite her secrets, had become dear to him? The wail of the sirens grew deafening. Through the kitchen window, Marcus saw police cars screeching to a halt outside the shelter. Leading the charge was a determined-looking woman in a detective's badge. In that moment, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. Lily, wait! As dawn broke over the city, casting long shadows across the shelter's worn facade, Marcus stood in the kitchen, his mind reeling from the night's events. The fundraising dinner was mere hours away, but now it seemed trivial compared to the storm that was about to break. Jack burst into the kitchen, his face ashen. Marcus, there are police everywhere. They're asking about Lily. What the hell is going on? Marcus took a deep breath, the weight of his knowledge pressing down on him. Jack, sit down. There's something you need to know. As Marcus recounted the events of the night, carefully omitting certain details, Jack's expression cycled through shock, anger, and finally, a deep sadness. I can't believe it, Jack muttered, shaking his head. Lily, she seemed so genuine, so caring. People are complicated, Jack, Marcus replied, his voice heavy with emotion. We all have our secrets, our past mistakes. Their conversation was interrupted by a sharp knock on the door. Detective Sarah Moore strode in, her keen eyes taking in every detail of the kitchen. Gentlemen, she began, her tone professional but tinged with urgency. I'm Detective Moore. We have reason to believe that a woman known to us as the Chameleon has been operating out of this shelter. She's wanted in connection with a series of high-profile art thefts across the city. Marcus and Jack exchanged glances, both struggling to reconcile the Lily they knew with this new information. "Detective," Marcus started, choosing his words carefully. "We're as shocked as you are, but right now, we have a critical fundraiser planned for tonight. The future of this shelter depends on its success." Detective Moore's eyes narrowed. "A fundraiser? Tonight? That's convenient timing." "What are you implying, Detective?" Jack bristled. "I'm not implying anything," she replied coolly. "But I will be attending this dinner. Consider it added security." As the detective left, Marcus slumped against the counter. The stakes had just gotten impossibly higher. Not only did he have to pull off the dinner of a lifetime, but he now had to do it under the watchful eye of the law, all while grappling with his own conflicted feelings about Lily. Speaking of Lily, where was she? Had she managed to escape? And if she had, would she really abandon the shelter and the people she'd grown to care for? As if in answer to his unspoken questions, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry for everything. I want to make it right. Trust me one last time. L." Marcus stared at the message, his heart pounding. What did Lily have planned? And could he risk everything, the shelter, his own freedom, on trusting her? As volunteers began to arrive, transforming the humble shelter into a venue worthy of New York's elite, Marcus made a decision. He would move forward with the dinner, but he'd also keep his eyes open. Something told him that tonight would be a night no one would soon forget. The hours ticked by in a blur of preparation. Marcus directed the kitchen with the precision and passion that had once earned him Michelin stars. But even as he crafted exquisite dishes from humble ingredients, his mind raced with questions and possibilities. As evening fell and the first guests began to arrive, Marcus took a moment to himself in the quiet of the pantry. Closing his eyes, he took a deep breath, centering himself for the performance of a lifetime. "Well, well," a familiar voice broke the silence. "The great Marcus Blackwood, reduced to cooking for charity. How the mighty have fallen." Marcus's eyes snapped open to see Veronica Sharp, the critic whose review had started his downfall, standing in the doorway. "Veronica," Marcus managed, his voice tight, "I didn't expect to see you here." She smirked. "Oh, I wouldn't miss this for the world. The chance to see if you've learned anything since your, shall we say, fall from grace?" As Veronica sauntered away, Marcus clenched his fists. The night had barely begun, and already the pressure was mounting. With a critic looking to bury him, a detective searching for a thief, and a mysterious text from Lily hanging over his head, Marcus knew that this dinner would be the greatest test of his life. Little did he know, as he stepped out to greet the gathering crowd, that before the night was through, secrets would be revealed, loyalties tested, and lives forever changed within the walls of Hope Harbor Shelter. The dining room of Hope Harbor Shelter hummed with anticipation as New York's elite mingled, sipping champagne and eyeing the transformed space with a mixture of curiosity and thinly veiled condescension. Marcus, now dressed in a borrowed chef's jacket, took a deep breath before stepping out to address the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice carrying the authority of his former status. "Tonight, we invite you to experience not just a meal, but a journey that proves that with passion, skill, and a touch of creativity, even the humblest ingredients can become extraordinary." As Marcus spoke, his eyes scanned the room. Detective Moore stood near the back, her gaze sharp and vigilant. Veronica Sharp sat at a prominent table, her pen poised over a notepad. And there, slipping in through a side door, was a figure that made Marcus's heart skip a beat. Lily. She caught his eye and gave an almost imperceptible nod. Whatever she had planned, it was happening tonight. With a flourish, Marcus signaled for the first course to be served. As plates of seemingly simple soup were placed before the guests, a collective murmur of surprise and delight rippled through the room. The flavors were complex, the presentation immaculate. "This is unexpected," Veronica muttered, scribbling furiously in her notepad. As the evening progressed, Marcus orchestrated a symphony of flavors, each course more impressive than the last. But even as he worked his culinary magic, his senses remained on high alert. Lily moved through the room with grace, helping to serve and clear plates, but Marcus noticed her eyes constantly darting to a particular guest, a portly man with a gaudy ring who Marcus recognized as a prominent art dealer. Just as the main course was being served, a commotion erupted near the back of the room. "Stop! Thief!" a voice bellowed. Marcus's blood ran cold as he saw the art dealer on his feet, pointing accusingly at Lily, who stood frozen, her hand clutching something small and glittering. Detective Moore was on the move instantly, but before she could reach Lily, the lights suddenly went out, plunging the room into darkness. Shouts of confusion and alarm filled the air. Everyone remained calm. Detective Moore's voice cut through the chaos. "Nobody move." In the pitch black, Marcus felt a hand grab his arm. "It's me," Lily's voice whispered urgently. "Marcus, I need your help, please." For a split second, Marcus hesitated. Everything he had worked for, the redemption he sought, it all hung in the balance. But in that moment of darkness, both literal and figurative, Marcus made his choice. "Follow me," he whispered back, guiding Lily through the kitchen and towards the back exit he knew by heart. As they burst out into the alley behind the shelter, the cool night air hit them like a shock. "Lily, what the hell is going on?" Marcus demanded. Lily's eyes were wide with a mixture of fear and determination. "I can explain everything, but not here. We need to." Her words were cut off by the sound of approaching sirens. "Freeze! Police!" Detective Moore's voice rang out as she emerged from the shelter, gun drawn. In that moment, time seemed to slow down. Marcus looked at Lily, saw the desperation in her eyes, and made a decision that would change everything. "Detective," he called out, stepping in front of Lily. "I can explain." "Step aside, Mr. Blackwood," Moore warned. "That woman is a wanted criminal." "No," Marcus said firmly. "She's not who you think she is, and neither am I." With trembling hands, Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, ornate key, identical to the one Lily had been holding. "I'm the one you want," he declared, his voice echoing in the stunned silence of the alley. "I'm the chameleon." Lily gasped behind him. "Marcus, no!" But Marcus pressed on, the words tumbling out in a rush. "I've been using this shelter, using Lily as part of my cover. She's innocent in all this, the art thefts, the missing donation money. It was all me." Detective Moore's eyes narrowed as she processed this information. "And why should I believe you?" Marcus took a deep breath. "Because I can lead you to every single piece I've stolen, including the one hidden in plain sight at tonight's dinner." As if on cue, shouts erupted from inside the shelter. "The painting! It's gone!" Detective Moore's gaze darted between Marcus and Lily, uncertainty clear on her face. "Both of you, hands where I can see them. You're coming with me." As Moore approached with handcuffs, Lily suddenly burst into action. "I'm sorry, Marcus," she whispered, before shoving him hard towards the detective. In the ensuing chaos, Lily disappeared into the shadows of the alley. By the time Marcus and Moore regained their footing, she was gone. "Damn it!" Moore exclaimed, quickly cuffing Marcus. "What the hell just happened?" Marcus, his mind reeling, could only shake his head. "I wish I knew, Detective. I truly wish I knew." As Moore led him towards the waiting police car, Marcus caught sight of Jack standing in the doorway of the shelter, his face a mask of confusion and betrayal. The guests were spilling out onto the street, their excited chatter a stark contrast to the gravity of the moment. "Well, Mr. Blackwood," Veronica Sharp's voice cut through the noise as they passed her. "It seems you've managed to surprise me after all. This will make quite the story." Marcus said nothing, his eyes fixed on the ground. As he was placed in the back of the police car, his mind raced. What had Lily's plan been? Why had she run? And most importantly, what would happen to Hope Harbor Shelter now? The car pulled away from the curb, leaving behind a scene of chaos and unanswered questions. In the rearview mirror, Marcus watched as the shelter, the place that had given him a second chance, that had become his home, faded into the distance. But even as despair threatened to overwhelm him, a small part of Marcus clung to hope. Lily was still out there, and something told him that this wasn't the end of their story. As the city lights blurred past the window, Marcus closed his eyes, the weight of his choices heavy on his shoulders. He had lost everything once before and survived. Whatever came next, he would face it head on. The police car turned a corner, and Hope Harbor Shelter disappeared from view. But in that moment, Marcus made a silent vow. He would find a way to make this right, for Jack, for the shelter, and for Lily. Little did he know, as the car sped towards the police station, that the true test of his resolve was yet to come. For in the shadows of the city, wheels were already in motion, setting the stage for a revelation that would shake the very foundations of everything Marcus thought he knew. The night was far from over, and the greatest twist in this tale of redemption, betrayal, and unexpected alliances was still to come. At the police station, Marcus sat in the cold, sterile interrogation room, his mind a whirlwind of emotions and questions. Detective Moore paced before him, her face a mask of frustration and determination. "Start from the beginning, Mr. Blackwood," she demanded, "and don't leave anything out." Marcus took a deep breath, ready to spin a tale that would protect Lily and the shelter, when suddenly the door burst open. A distinguished-looking man in a crisp suit strode in, his presence immediately commanding attention. "This interview is over," the man declared. "I'm Agent Thompson, FBI. Mr. Blackwood is coming with us." Detective Moore's eyes widened in shock. "What? On whose authority?" Agent Thompson handed her a document. "This operation goes far beyond a few art thefts, Detective. Mr. Blackwood here is a key witness in a case that spans continents." As Marcus was led out of the station, his confusion only grew. What was happening? How had the FBI become involved? Once in a sleek black SUV, Agent Thompson turned to Marcus, his expression grave. "Mr. Blackwood, I apologize for the deception, but it was necessary. We've been tracking an international art smuggling ring for years, and your friend Lily is our key to bringing it down." Marcus's heart raced. "Lily? But she is one of our deep cover agents," Thompson finished. "And now, thanks to your actions tonight, her cover remains intact." The realization hit Marcus like a tidal wave. Lily's mysterious past, her incredible skills, her reluctance to be in the spotlight, it all made sense now. But the thefts, the missing donation money, Marcus stammered. Thompson nodded grimly. "All part of the operation. The real criminals are much bigger fish, Mr. Blackwood. And tonight, thanks to you and Lily, we're closer than ever to catching them." As the city streaked by outside the window, Marcus's mind reeled with the implications. He had been an unwitting pawn in a game much larger than he could have imagined. "So what happens now?" Marcus asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Agent Thompson's eyes met his in the rearview mirror. "Now, Mr. Blackwood, you have a choice to make. You can walk away from all this, return to your life at the shelter with a full exoneration, or, Marcus prompted, sensing the weight of the moment. "Or you can help us finish what Lily started. Your skills, your connections in the culinary world, they could be invaluable in our final push to bring down this organization." Marcus sat back, the enormity of the decision before him sinking in. On one hand, the simple life he'd built at Hope Harbor, the redemption he'd found in helping others. On the other, a chance to make a real difference, to use his talents for something greater than himself. As the SUV pulled up to a nondescript building, Marcus made his decision. "I'm in," he said firmly. "Whatever it takes." Agent Thompson nodded approvingly. "Good. Welcome to the team, Chef." The doors of the SUV opened, revealing a hive of activity, agents bustling about, screens displaying information from around the globe. And there, in the center of it all, stood Lily, a proud smile on her face as she saw Marcus. "I knew you'd make the right choice," she said, embracing him. "Ready to help me cook up something really special?" Marcus grinned, feeling a familiar fire ignite within him, the thrill of a challenge, the promise of something extraordinary. "Always," he replied. As they walked into the command center together, Marcus realized that his journey had come full circle, from the heights of culinary fame to the depths of despair, and now to this, a chance to use his skills to make a real difference in the world. The greatest adventure of Marcus Blackwood's life was just beginning, and this time, he was ready for whatever the recipe called for. As the sun rose over New York City, casting a golden glow on the sleek skyscrapers and humble brownstones alike, Marcus Blackwood stood at the window of a high-rise apartment, his eyes taking in the sprawling metropolis below. So much had changed in the past year, yet in many ways, he felt more like himself than ever before. The operation to bring down the international art smuggling ring had been a resounding success. Marcus's culinary expertise had proven invaluable, allowing him to infiltrate exclusive gatherings and high-stakes auctions under the guise of a celebrity chef. Alongside Lily, whose true name he now knew to be Agent Sarah Collins, they had meticulously gathered evidence, unraveling the complex web of criminals that spanned continents. But the victory had come at a cost. For months, Marcus had been unable to return to Hope Harbor Shelter, his sudden disappearance leaving Jack and the others bewildered and hurt. The weight of his deception, even if for a greater good, had weighed heavily on his conscience. Now, with the operation concluded and his name cleared, Marcus faced yet another crossroads. Agent Thompson had offered him a permanent position with the FBI's white-collar crime division, citing his unique skill set and proven adaptability. It was a tempting offer, promising excitement and purpose. Yet, as Marcus gazed out at the city awakening, his thoughts drifted to the humble kitchen of Hope Harbor, to the faces of those he'd helped, to the simple joy of creating nourishing meals for those in need. A soft knock at the door interrupted his reverie. Lily entered, her usual confident demeanor tempered by a hint of uncertainty. "So," she began, joining him at the window. "Have you made your decision?" Marcus turned to her, a small smile playing on his lips. "I have, and I think you already know what it is." Lily nodded, a mix of understanding and disappointment in her eyes. "Hope Harbor?" "Hope Harbor," Marcus confirmed, but with a twist. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a carefully folded business plan. "I'm going to turn it into a culinary school for the homeless and underprivileged, a place where people can learn valuable skills, find purpose, and maybe even discover a passion they never knew they had." Lily's eyes widened as she scanned the document. "Marcus, this is incredible. But how will you fund it?" Marcus's grin widened. "Well, it turns out that when you help bring down a multi-million-dollar criminal enterprise, certain doors open. I've already secured backing from several prominent restaurateurs and food industry leaders. They see it as a way to give back and potentially discover new talent." "And Jack? The others at the shelter?" Lily asked softly. Marcus's expression sobered. "That's going to be the hardest part. Explaining everything, asking for their forgiveness. But I have to try. Hope Harbor gave me a second chance when I needed it most. Now it's my turn to pay it forward." Lily placed a hand on his arm, her touch conveying support and something more, a connection forged through shared struggles and triumphs. "I'm proud of you, Marcus. You've come a long way from the broken chef I met at that shelter." "We've come a long way," Marcus corrected her. "I couldn't have done any of this without you, Lily. Sarah," he amended with a chuckle. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, the city bustling below them. Finally, Marcus turned to her, his expression serious. "What about you? What's next for the brilliant Agent Collins?" Lily's gaze turned distant. "There's always another case, another mission." "But," she hesitated, "I was thinking it might be time for a change of pace. Your culinary school idea, it's going to need someone with experience in logistics, security, maybe even a bit of undercover work to vet potential donors." Marcus's heart leapt at the implication. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying," Lily continued, a mischievous glint in her eye, "that perhaps it's time for me to hang up my badge and pick up a chef's knife. If you'll have me, of course." Marcus pulled her into a tight embrace, his voice thick with emotion. "Always." As they broke apart, both laughing and a little misty-eyed, Marcus felt a surge of excitement for the future. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There were amends to be made, trust to be rebuilt, and countless challenges to overcome. But for the first time in years, he felt truly, unequivocally ready to face whatever came next. Together, they left the high-rise apartment, stepping out into the bright New York morning. As they walked, Marcus couldn't help but reflect on the incredible journey that had brought him to this moment. From the heights of culinary fame to the depths of despair, from a homeless shelter to international espionage, and now back to where it all began, but this time with a new purpose and a partner by his side. As they approached Hope Harbor Shelter, Marcus took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. Jack stood at the entrance, his expression a mix of shock, hurt, and a glimmer of hope. "Welcome back, Chef," Jack said quietly. Marcus nodded, his voice steady. "It's good to be home, Jack. We have a lot to talk about." And with that, they stepped inside, ready to write the next chapter in this most unlikely of stories. A story of redemption, of second chances, and of the extraordinary potential that lies within every individual. waiting to be awakened. And there you have it, dear viewers. A tale of culinary genius, hidden identities, and the transformative power of compassion. From the glittering heights of Michelin-starred restaurants to the humble kitchens of a homeless shelter, Marcus Blackwood's journey reminds us that true fulfillment often comes from the most unexpected places. But the story doesn't end here. In fact, it's just beginning, and you can be part of it. If you've been moved by Marcus and Lily's adventure, if you believe in the power of second chances and the magic that can happen when skills meet compassion, we invite you to join us in making a difference. Subscribe to our channel to follow the progress of Hope Harbor Culinary Academy. Share this video with friends and family who might be inspired by this remarkable tale. And if you're in a position to do so, consider donating to organizations in your community that support the homeless and provide vocational training. Remember, every great meal begins with a single ingredient, and every great change begins with a single action. Your support could be the key ingredient in someone's recipe for a better life. So, what are you waiting for? Like, subscribe, and let's cook up some hope together.